I'm Stacy LeBaron, and this is another edition of Chelsea Hubcats. Today, Dr. Rebecca Schoenberg of Autumn Care Crossings is joining us, and we have our regular guest, Laura Appleton, who's my partner in crime, who's part of our outreach team on the Hubcats Chelsea group. So thank you, Laura, for joining us.
And Oliver
and
the dog.
Oliver the dog. He seems to be our new addition to our show. So I hope everybody is enjoying Oliver, and Oliver seems to be very excited and enjoying us today. I appreciate all his energy. So it's fantastic. And Dr. Schoenberg, thank you so much for joining us.
Happy to be here.
So for folks that aren't familiar with Chelsea Hubcats, we are a nonprofit organization that was founded about 2 years ago to focus on the needs of cats within the city. I am a true blue cat lover, so we did focus on cats first and foremost, but then we sort of over time decided to focus on the cats and dogs in Chelsea. And we were able to create a program that offers free spay-neuter services for cats, subsidized spay-neuter services for dogs, as well as vaccinations and microchipping through an annual clinic that we have. And we also have monthly meetings, and we are now starting to do some educational outreach, which is also really exciting for the folks of Chelsea and for the residents. So to date, we've assisted over 1,800 cats and dogs in the city. So I really hope you've been able to take advantage of our programs. If you don't know anything about us or would like to know more about our programs, please go to hubcatschelsea.com. Find us on Facebook. You can come and join the team and make a difference. You can always call us at 857-776-2287, and our email is hubcatschelsea@gmail.com. Okay, into the meat of the show. I shouldn't say meat, I guess, but anyway. So Dr. Schoenberg, again, thank you again for joining us today. And you have a mobile clinic that you run in the Boston area. Mm-hmm. Would you tell us a little bit about your program and what you do?
So my practice is a mobile clinic that offers hospice and palliative care for dogs and cats, as well as end-of-life care. And it's focused on geriatric animals, older pets, or pets with chronic or life-limiting illnesses.
And are you out of Medford? Or
Medford.
That's your sort of your home base. What communities do you serve?
So pretty much anything within about a 30-mile radius of Medford. I'm willing to drive to get to where my patients are because there are so many animals in need. So,
what exactly is the hospice and palliative care that you give them specifically?
Sure.
What does that all mean, or how do we make that commitment with our animals?
So, hospice care is as much a philosophy as it is a practice of medicine. It is changing the focus of our treatment. So instead of seeking for a specific diagnosis and pursuing a cure aggressively, it's changing the focus of our care to be more attentive to comfort and quality of life, and to seeing to the animal's well-being overall. It's also a focus on the people, the caregiver, as much as it is the animal. So in hospice, we talk about the unit of care, and that's the family and the pet and the doctor, instead of just focusing on the animal. Mm-hmm. It's as much about making sure that the people who are caring for this animal are having their needs met as well, whether that's education and understanding of what's going on with their animal, whether it's support in treatment, because sometimes a chronically ill or an older pet may have a lot of needs. They may be on multiple medications or need round-the-clock care, or whether it's emotional support as they're going through a difficult time. Not everyone has family or friends that are understanding, so a hospice care is as much about making sure that you have your needs met in a really difficult time as it is about making sure that your pet has their needs met.
And I would think that in those, every family has different levels of care that they might need. I mean, over all the years that I've had cats, I will say probably the most challenging situation that I ran into was renal failure.
It's so common in our kitties.
I'm not a great fan of administering fluids. It's not my cup of tea, and so I had someone coming into the house to help with doing the fluids. But still, it was still really uncomfortable for me. And I'm sure there are other people out there that are like, oh, yeah, I love doing this. And so
Exactly.
there's different levels of treatment.
Sub-Q fluids? Or?
Sub-Q, yeah, which I'm sure, I mean, you've probably
Yeah.
run across that. And
Yeah.
for you, that's probably not a big deal.
Not a
But
big deal.
for me, I was like, now, and I could do insulin shots without a problem, but the sub-Q fluids, for some reason, just really made me very uncomfortable. And I don't know why, but it was a thing. So I'm sure that every family has like their things.
Exactly, and that's one of the biggest challenges and duties of hospice care is finding out what the owner's resources are. And those are resources of time, resources of money, resources of emotion. There are a lot of different pieces, parts that go into it. And being flexible in your planning. So any care plan that I put together for a patient is going to obviously be adaptable. Some people start out thinking, yeah, sure, I can do these fluids. And after a couple of tries, they realize it's not going to suit their pet's temperament or what they want out of their relationship with their pet. And we need to be able to be flexible and say, okay, if that's not something you can do, we don't have to. Or they may say that they don't want to take a particular step, but after a little while of stopping and thinking and talking to other family members or friends, they say, wait a minute, maybe I can do this. So flexibility is a big part of making a plan. And another facet is just that it's a cooperative relationship between the family, the doctor, and the animal. In traditional general practice, it's a lot more ordered. You come in, you say, here's the symptom. The doctor says, here's your diagnosis, here's your medicine. This is a situation where I sit down, I talk with you, and I say, what do you want? Here are some things that we can do. You can pick and choose. So you can say, I want to do the fluids and the special food, but I don't want to give these medications. Or you can say, I'm aces at giving medicine, but I'm phobic of needles. I don't want to do that. And every patient has a very specific personal plan in every family. So,
And when you run across different cases, do you sort of prepare the family for what the road is like up ahead?
exactly. I can never tell you day by day exactly how a case is going to progress, but education and making sure that the people are informed is so important. So my visits, for instance, take about an hour instead of your usual 15-minute vet visit. And a lot of that is just talking and answering questions, telling people, here's what we're dealing with. Here are some signs that you are likely to see down the road. Here's what's most common as it progresses. Here are some things that may happen. And in case of emergency, here are some potential significant problems that you may see, so that one, they can prepare themselves emotionally, and two, they can have resources in their pocket in case an emergency happens.
I would think it would be very comforting for you to be able to see these animals in their home environment. Is that why you decided to be a mobile veterinarian, or it's just that it makes sense because the animals themselves are hard to travel?
Both. So it's very comforting to both the people and to me to be able to sit down in a comfortable, quiet, not always quiet, but in a comfortable situation and have a conversation. It's comforting to the pet because usually these animals are either older, and if they're dogs, they have a hard time getting in and out of the car, or if they're cats, they don't like going, no one likes being put in a carrier and taken to the vet's office. And so the animal's a lot more relaxed. I can usually learn a lot more about what they're like when they're not stressed, but also being able to see the home environment can help me shape my treatment plan. So if an animal has arthritis or joint disease, I can say, here's some places where you can put extra traction down. Kitties that get old and stiff, I can say, here are some places where you can put stairs, or you can move their litter box. A lot of palliative care, which is care focused on comfort, is modifying the home environment to make it more comfortable for them. And that's something that you can't do in an office.
More focused on the mobility
Even
issues.
animals that even animals that aren't dealing with joint disease. So sometimes kitties with kidney failure, they have to go pretty frequently, and they're usually old and a little weak. So making sure they don't have to run up a flight of stairs to get to their litter box. Moving their food bowls to a place that is easier or more comfortable. Another challenge that older kitties get, they get cold. They get thin, they don't have such good circulation. So being able to say, oh, this is their favorite nap spot, why don't we get a little heated bed or a little lamp over it to make a warm spot for them? So little things that we can do to make them more comfortable.
Yeah, that is funny how the cats, I don't know, Laura, if this happens with your cats, but I'll have a lamp on and they're right under it,
I have the one cat in particular. He loves the dryer. Not in the dryer, on the dryer.
On the dryer. Yeah, very smart. Smart cat.
Rumbles like a mama purr.
Excuse me?
It rumbles like a mama cat purring, and it's nice and warm.
I didn't think of that, but the heat was the obvious. So.
Yep.
So I'm going to take a step back here and ask you first, why did you choose to become a veterinarian? And then why did you choose to specialize in this area?
So I never remembered choosing to be a veterinarian. It's just what I've known I wanted to do as long as I can remember. There's a family joke that for my 3rd birthday, someone got me one of those little Fisher-Price doctor kits. And the first thing I did was go right over to the family cat and put my little stethoscope on and start giving her a little checkup. I've known this was what I wanted to do as long as I can remember.
Wow.
As for what led me to focus on hospice care, when I first got accepted into vet school, one of my mentors gave me a piece of advice, which was to volunteer for the pet loss support hotline at vet. And her reasoning was that vet school doesn't teach you how to talk to people. It teaches you how to work with animals, but it doesn't teach you how to work with clients, and that would give me a good experience of talking to people. And it just clicked for me. My first day volunteering there, I realized this was something that really resonated with me. I actually wound up spending all 4 years of my education working there, volunteering there. They made it an independent study. I started training the other students. When I first graduated, hospice wasn't a field that existed, so I wound up going into general practice and just becoming known as in the practices that I worked at as the doctor who was good at all that huggy stuff. And I tried to work it into what I did until one day when I found an article talking about a new organization, which was the International Association for Animal Hospice and Palliative Care. And it was like a light went off in my head. It was that was what I wanted. That was what I had been trying to do without knowing what I was doing. And after that, I spent about a year saying, oh, I wish I could just leave my practice job and do this. I wish I could just, until my husband actually said, you keep saying that. What's stopping you from doing it? And he gave me the courage to start my own practice. Yeah, and I'm really glad that I did.
And how long have you been doing this?
I've been doing hospice medicine for 3 years now.
Fantastic. And is it all that you thought it would be? Or?
It's amazing. I have never felt this grateful to be doing what I'm doing. I love it.
How do you get the word out?
A lot of it was word from other practices. Before I did this, I did what's called relief work. I filled in at other practices in around Massachusetts and New Hampshire. And so I got to know a lot of the other doctors in the area. So when they found out that I was doing this, they refer a lot of clients to me. I went and talked to a lot of the referral and specialty practices. And then I also just put together a website, and when it was early and I didn't have a lot of caseload, I spent a lot of time just writing and trying to come up with articles that would be helpful to clients and putting them out on the web until enough word of mouth started circulating. And once I had a couple of clients, they tell other people, because most of the people I know, if they've had an in-home experience, especially for end of life, it's a lot more peaceful than something in the clinic. And they start telling people, hey, this was better, this was good. It's not something that you ever want your friends to need, but it's something that if they do need it, you want them to know it's there.
Do you have a support staff, or do you work independently?
It's just me.
Okay.
I am my receptionist, and I am my technician, and I am
Public relations.
public relations.
A one-woman show.
Yep.
It's tough. I mean, and we were talking about this in a previous show with Dr. Snell of Blue Pearl about how hard it is for veterinarians, and he's in a large practice, but still, it's a business. You know, it's whether you're one person, whether you're 20 people, it's still a business, and yet there's this incredible level of emotion and compassion and
Absolutely.
energy and training that goes into practicing your, you know, your skills and that kind of thing. But yet, at the end of the day, too, there's an accounting that has to happen. So multiple hats.
Exactly. And that was, I think, the steepest learning curve, was just realizing I thought that the hardest part was going to be the practice of medicine and starting out in a new area. And in fact, the hardest part was remembering that when I start running low on something, no one else is going to order it for me.
Right, right. That's all.
Yeah.
It's all on you at the end of the day.
No one else is going to balance QuickBooks.
No one else. Yeah. And the tax returns and all that fun stuff. But we won't go there. I'll hold back on that. I didn't know if you might have a couple of stories that you might want to share with us. Maybe, you know, just generalities of some interesting cases that maybe you've had over the course of the last few years, or anything that's super just memorable or rewarding.
It's hard when you're dealing with end of life, because we don't necessarily have as many cute or fun stories, but there are moments that stand out. One in particular, I was there to help a family say goodbye to their dog, and people always ask me, should I have my other pets there? And I always tell them, you know, yes, but understand that they're not necessarily going to understand what's going on. They're not necessarily going to support them, whatever plan you have in place. And we'd given the dog that was saying goodbye a little bit of medicine to help her fall asleep, and she was resting peacefully, and the family had originally planned to have a conversation and talk about their happy memories of her, but it had fallen very, very silent. I think everyone was a little waiting for someone else to talk and waiting for someone else to say something, and it had just gotten very sad and quiet. And so the other dog in the household decided that clearly we all needed cheering up. And so this sweet little 2-year-old beagle went and picked up her favorite squeaky toy and started running around the room like she was leading a parade, honking on this squeaky toy as loud as she possibly could in the middle of this very solemn, somber, quiet moment. And it completely broke the mood. And luckily, everyone just started giggling uncontrollably, and the dog was very happy that she'd clearly done her job of
Helping.
cheering everyone up and helping. And it was actually a great moment, because then people were able to start talking about their memories of the dogs together, and it was a reminder of the silliness and the fun that pets can bring into our lives. So that was a time that actually the dog was my helper.
Yeah, so you had an assistant.
I
that
did have
day.
an assistant.
You have to give a treat for, you know, for that. But that is interesting, you know, how not only with the human family members, but yet the other pets, how they react in the household and that kind of stuff. And I will admit to everybody here, I've probably never said this, and people would be surprised. I have not sat through a euthanasia. I have ever. I've had 2 cats euthanized in my house, and I cannot be in the room with them.
And that's okay. Everybody's relationship with grief and loss is different. And there's a lot of pressure in some ways to be there, to hold them, to be present, but it's not necessary. You need to take care of your own emotional well-being as much as anything else. And it's okay to step out.
And I think that's what's really important is figuring out what works for everybody, you know, or I know, you know, half the time you don't know what works at that point in time, because you know it's the time for your pet to move on, but you're thinking about them. You don't know about what you can do and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, Laura, you have a much stronger spine than I do, probably, or whatever.
It has nothing to do with strength.
I don't know, but I recently lost a pet, and I wanted to be there with her always, you know, but I was prevented because I didn't have the situation of comfort in the home. I brought her to the hospital, and they had regulations in terms of the visiting hours. But the constraints were obvious, so.
And that's necessary for them.
Yes,
But I'm
but-
sorry that it got in the way for you.
Yes, it got in the way for me and my pet because I thought she needed comfort. So, so you provide a good service.
Thank you. And I've been very lucky recently in that a lot of the referral clinics around here have started working together with me, including like in situations where animals are critical, having the owners meet up with me before they're released from the hospital if they're not expected to have long, so that then they can meet with me, make a plan, and bring the pet home to say goodbye at home. So it's something that we're still working on getting the word out about animal hospice, but the more both people and other doctors learn that it's an option, the more we can hopefully help keep situations like that from happening.
Do you know of any resources that are out there? I mean, I think this is incredibly important. You know, you develop this relationship, your bond. We've worked really hard in the sheltering world to spay and neuter all of these cats and dogs at an affordable price. You know, let people who want to be able to have pets pretty much, not regardless of what their income level is, but you know, if you have a desire, you should be able to have a pet. And having a pet is so important to everybody's well-being. But these animals are all going to get older. They're all going to have a point where their lives are going to end. But there's really not much financial support out there in the community where we've subsidized spaying and neutering the cats and dogs, but yet we're not helping provide money for getting their dentals done or, you know, supportive care for them.
The next grant.
It's the next grant. It's going to be the next round. But I didn't know if you knew of anything that might be percolating out there to be able to help folks, or any thoughts or ideas for folks that, you know, might not have the resources but want that ability to be able to even just to say goodbye at home.
I wish that there were. The best thing that I can say is just reach out to your veterinarian, even if you don't feel like you have a lot of resources. If you're in need, at least call. Even if you can't afford a house call, or an office visit, they can sometimes give you advice over the phone. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of providers for house call medicine or house call end-of-life care, and it does wind up being a good bit more expensive. There are some providers that I know of who have gotten their practices large enough that they're able to subsidize some visits, but right now, the best I can say is reach out to a general practice vet. And resources can stretch a lot farther if you're upfront and communicate with the veterinarian. It's a lot easier for us if you come to us and say, I want to work with you, here's my budget. Then we can start kind of massaging numbers and saying, okay, well, I can't give you that medicine, but I can write a prescription and you can get it at CVS for a little bit less. The lab lets us run the occasional pro bono test. We can then kind of squeeze around your constraints. Then if you just don't come in or don't let us know where we can work with. But the one thing that I can say for all of us veterinarians is we're in this to help you and your pet, and we want to work with you. Just let us know what you need and what you have, and we will do everything within our power to help you.
Are you familiar with Care Credit?
Yes.
Is that something that...
Care Credit works a lot better with bigger practices. I'm still trying to figure out how to integrate that, but it's something that I'm hoping to.
And quite a few people use GoFundMe pages too, where they try to do that in order to raise.
What's care credit? I don't know.
Care credit is essentially a medical bill specific credit card. It can be used for some human medical bills, and it can be used for some veterinary bills. So if you can apply for it, it is essentially a way to pay in installments for your care. People also ask me a lot about pet insurance. It varies from the insurance to the insurance as to whether they'll cover house calls and hospice care. Some of them will, some of them won't, some plans will. So if you do have pet insurance, it's never a bad idea to ask to submit the bill and see if they'll cover it.
The thought of long-term care insurance then popped into my head. I'm like, oh no, more insurance.
Yeah, there are pros and cons.
For all of that.
Yeah.
I would agree. I just, to share with our viewers, maybe share your contact information and your website just so that they have that.
Absolutely. My website is just autumnvet.com, autumn like the season, AUTUMNVET. You can also reach me by email, autumnvet@gmail.com, or by phone, 781-874-9477. I'm always happy to answer questions or talk to people who are just curious, especially if you're wondering if this is something that's right for you and your pet. I would be happy to talk about it more.
That's great. When we spoke on the phone a couple weeks before we actually are sitting here, we talked a little bit about compassion fatigue and how that impacts veterinarians. And I just wanted to sort of talk about that today. Obviously, you are in the most stressful part of, or what I can imagine, being in the job. And how do you manage that compassion fatigue that you may or must run into at times?
There are a lot of tools that I try to use because you're right, it is a big challenge. Veterinarians face a lot of stress, and it's a profession with a lot of challenges. So I'm very lucky in that I have a spouse who is amazingly supportive and is there for me at the end of the day when I come home and I say, oh, it was really hard. I lost a pet that I've been spending months working with. But the biggest tool for me to help with this has been reframing what I do. People always say, oh, just like you did, this is so hard. You're dealing with, every pet is terminally ill. You're dealing with end of life all the time. That's got to be really sad. And for me, at least, I feel like I get to see the best of humanity. Everyone who calls me is calling me because they love their pet unconditionally. Everyone who reaches out to me, I know that that animal has had an amazing life. And I get to see people being selfless. I get to see people being compassionate. I get to see families coming together to support one another. I get to see people showing love and gratitude every day. And that's not something that most people can say. We live in a world where people are discouraged from showing their feelings. And I'm in a profession where I get to see sadness, but I get to see joy every day. I work in a profession where people are unafraid to express themselves to me. And I get to see acts of kindness and selflessness in everything that I do. Looking at it that way has been a lot of what keeps me feeling incredibly grateful to do this job instead of incredibly heartbroken.
Well, and based on your story, this is truly your calling, your purpose. I mean, you just have this vision of where you were going to end up, and you took it.
I've been very, very lucky on that front. I freely admit that.
It's amazing. I mean, I have a 14-year-old going on 15-year-old son who he believes he knows precisely what he is doing for his world. But I thought I was going to be like the best architect in the world when I was 14 years old. And here I am, I'm doing a show about cats and dogs. So, you know, I don't think that was such a straight line, was it, Laura?
It's, I'm thinking of my straight line, a crooked line. So.
So I think that's incredible. I mean, it's amazing.
I've been very lucky every step of the way. So I know that I am one of the tiny percentage of people who actually not only am doing what I decided when I was 5, but even doing what I went to college for. So I've just had a lot of people who've helped me. I've had a lot of just plain luck, and I think a lot of being in the right place at the right time. As I said, hospice is a really new field, and I just happened to find out about it right when it was starting. I happened to be present for enrollment in the first ever hospice certification program, and I am lucky to live in an area where there are enough people who love their pets to support a hospice practice. So
I'm going to throw this out because, you know, you're doing this, you're doing a great job. Do you envision yourself sharing what you do with other students to be able to expand this? I mean, do you have a vision of teaching others?
So that's actually one of the goals I've mentioned the International Animal Hospice Association and the hospice certification program, and that is a great deal of what our purpose is to spread the word, not just to clients and caregivers, but to other veterinarians, to try to get hospice care to be integrated into veterinary curriculums and vet tech programs, because it's not something that they teach in vet school yet. So I do want to ultimately become part of making this a more known field. Step one was becoming formally certified myself, and right now I am working as a mentor to a couple of other veterinarians who are in practice, who are seeking to expand their practice to include hospice.
Great.
But yes, I would love to eventually feel confident in my knowledge enough to reach out and start working with vet students or taking on interns to learn more. That's something that I think would be really important.
Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share with our viewers today?
The most important one that I could think of is something that one of my vet school professors told me that I keep falling back on, which is age is not a disease. A lot of times as our pets get older, we see them slow down and we think, oh, they're just old. She's just old. And we assume that there's nothing that can be done to help them. And so we think, oh, you know, she's slowing down, she's not jumping up as much, she's getting skinny, and a lot of the things that are causing those signs are often things that we can treat, or at least things that we can palliate. We can make them more comfortable, we can help them feel better. And one of the biggest reasons that I started doing what I do is because there are so many geriatric animals that are just kind of quietly uncomfortable, and they need a little bit more love, they need a little bit more support. But for older pets, I think it's a beautiful time to be part of their family, because they give so much to us that their senior years are a time that we can reach out and give back to them. So if you have an older pet, pay attention, and if you notice any changes, talk to your vet. If you don't have a vet, get a relationship with one and see what you can do to help keep them comfortable. And if you're looking to bring a new pet into your life, adopt a senior pet. They need homes, they need love. Everybody wants the cute kittens, but it's the creaky old kitties that will really be the biggest benefiters.
I have 12-year-old kittens. So, and I'm thinking, you know, some cats live to be, I have one cat in mind. I had the fortune of having her around for 26 years.
Oh my
Oh my
gracious.
gosh.
But Most cats a range, 15,
15
20.
to 20, yeah.
Okay.
Which is why it also breaks my heart when I see people talk about their 10-year-old cat and say, well, he's just old.
Yeah, yeah. And dogs, 12 years old to 14, or
It depends on the breed. It depends on the size. I just said goodbye to a 19-year-old dog patient. But yeah, smaller dogs tend to live longer. But again, it's just like people. There are people who are old before their time, and there are people like my grandmother who were teaching water aerobics when they're 92. So,
Wow, that's impressive.
so again, yeah, age is not a disease.
That's right. How old is Oliver?
5.
Oh, he's a baby.
And he is frequently, oh, the puppy, the puppy. I'm like, the puppy is 5.
He's still a puppy.
Yeah.
Still a puppy. So at this point in time, we just do a little update of sort of what's happening around Chelsea. And we've been very, very busy. At this point, we were working hard during the course of the summer to raise money so that we could offer our services even longer than we had anticipated. And the Carly Foundation agreed to give us another grant. And we also got a MAC grant from the Spay-Neuter license plate. So that was great to help support spay-neuter for owned cats. But as I'm sitting here thinking out loud, we're going to take a note. I might do a grant application for there's an innovation grant. Maybe we'll do some hospice innovation grant.
I would be
funding.
happy to work with you on that.
That would be great. So, new and unique programs, and I think this is a
Absolutely.
key area. So that would be fantastic. So we'll make a note of that. So when we completed our Petco Foundation grant, which assisted 30 owned cats, in general, we are assisting about 30 owned cats, about 30 homeless cats or community cats on the streets every month. So it's 60 cats a month from Chelsea. And then we assist between 5 and 10 dogs. So every month. And the MSPCA is our partner in those spay-neuter services, as well as the Revere Pet Clinic, I think is the name. So that's been good. We have done some outreach. I don't know if you want to touch upon quickly on the...
I participated in the community gardens outreach program, and some fellow volunteers were at the Science Fest and the food truck.
Yeah,
festival.
so we've been doing some tabling, which is new for us. And if there are folks out there that are interested in doing some education and outreach, passing out information about our work, feel free to always email us at hubcatschelsea@gmail.com. We're actively looking for donations for our fall auction. So if you have any great gift certificates, gift cards, that Barnes & Noble gift card that's been sitting in the drawer that somebody gave to you, we will happily take re-gifted items. Or that Starbucks gift card or anything like that. Anything, handmade. Some folks will donate even a homemade pie. So, think outside of the box. We're always looking for items, and feel free to reach out to us for that, as well as volunteers. We tend to meet on the second Tuesday of the month at the Chelsea Police Department. So that's sort of the nuts and bolts of what we have going on today with Hubcats Chelsea. Dr. Schoenberg, thank you again for joining us. And, Laura, any last questions or thoughts or anything?
No.
No? You're good today? Oliver? Oliver, are you good?
Yes.
Oliver's good. Dr. Schoenberg, any last thoughts for our viewers as you've lost your voice? Oop. Sorry. No problem. Okay. So anyway, thank you for coming. And Laura, as always, thank you so much for joining me today. For folks interested in donating to us, we are a nonprofit 501c3 organization. You can always go to www.hubcatschelsea.com. Find us on Facebook. Please join the team to help make the difference for cats and dogs. Our phone number is 857-776-2287, and we're at hubcatschelsea@gmail.com. Thank you again for tuning in today, and we'll see you next time. And please remember, there'll be no cat or dog left behind in Chelsea. Take care.